So let me turn on my audio here. Okay, so I hope that doesn't kind of double. Can you say something so I see that it comes into the stream? Oh, it's gone? Oh, I can't hear you at the moment anymore. Hold on. What's happening here? Is that the Discord? 1 second. Oh, I lost you in the... No, you moved. Oh, okay, you moved. Hold on. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened.
There we go.
So let me turn off all the 1,000 Chrome windows I have to save a little bandwidth here. And see what's going on. And then I have this little thing here. Okay.
Wow, that is a delay.
Yeah, are you listening on Twitch at the same time?
Yeah, I'm watching it now.
Okay. So, but like, do you see that at the top when you can kind of see like when we're speaking on Twitch itself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's basically what people can do is if they join the Discord and go to the same channel, they can simply interact with us.
Oh, nice.
And of course, this chat that you see there is kind of independent from where we are. So if I say, if I just chat in here, I don't know if you can see that, but this basically goes out to YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And regardless of the platform that people are answering, you would actually kind of like see that happening. It's kind of a fun little thing that Restream thing, Restream.io.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. That looks really cool.
That is super interesting, right?
Yeah.
That is super interesting. Is it a vape you have there?
No, just a straw.
I see. Okay, so it's 6:33, right? So I'm kind of monitoring we're alone as of now, I guess. Are we? It's actually, let me kind of see how that. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. It's not what I wanted to do. And that's also not what I wanted to do. Sorry, I'm just rearranging the 5 million. Probably gonna stop Teams for now. Save ourselves some additional crap here. Okay. Then here's the voice. And here's this. And here's the chat. Okay. How do I rearrange all of this?
And are you using OBS to kind of layer everything?
Yeah. So that's basically, yeah. So what I'm trying out is I don't know, you probably have seen my From Zero to Hero coder things on YouTube.
Yep.
And what I'm trying lately is to more or less find a different format that would basically allow people to more live interact and have questions and basically I don't even like have more of the problems that they're actually suffering. So almost a little bit like live tutoring. If you have something that you say, hey, I want to have that on the I don't even know how to say that, on the well, you know how you sometimes you're suffering on a particular problem, and
Right.
what you're trying to do is to kind of like, well, find a solution for it, and then you normally put it on Stack Overflow or Reddit or whatever, and with mixed results when it comes to.
Yeah, like having someone do it live is a completely different experience, and I think, especially for new coders, they really need that
Yes.
instead of just waiting for a message board.
Well, exactly. Plus, and they also have sometimes the problem that they don't know how to ask the right kind of questions.
Yeah, that is hard. I mean, because like Google Foo can take you only so far if you're not even sure how to ask the question, especially because of Bootstrap, with its naming convention, kind of ruins how to find certain things.
Yeah, that also. But I mean, you know, like ever since I work with students in Wyzend, I noticed that, you know, like it's kind of hard. I kind of forgot how beginners are thinking,
Yeah,
and I'm trying to find this middle ground. I actually had a I told you about Marco, right? The guy I work together with
yeah,
in um, in Germany that is still probably one of the most brilliant coders I've ever worked with, and and he was kind of like, well, why do you introduce something that is not best practice while you know doing tutorial videos? And my answer was kind of like, well, you know, if I start by writing interfaces for, you know, and abstract classes, and you know what, for people that don't know what OOP is, um, I'm not sure if I'm actually getting somewhere. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. There's levels to it, and you're at such high level. It's so hard to know where step one was, especially for other people.
Exactly, and that's why I thought a little bit about you, because you made that basically, you know, from when did you start coding? Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, about like two and change at this point.
Or really? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. And because I thought that's actually kind of interesting, right? It's kind of like, okay, you started coding on one of those online courses and basically are completely self-taught, and then, you know, moved into working for Eagle, and then, you know, like and then now basically start your own business. And I thought
yeah,
that that's a process that most people can probably somewhat relate to, or at least have a little bit on their mind when they start to learn how to code. Is because, I mean, there are only two reasons to start, you know, learning how to code. One is because you're just curious and want to make your Raspberry Pi project work,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the other one is, of course, because you want to pursue some kind of career.
Hmm.
And there are also like a little bit of facets around that, because you would say like, okay, what, but pursuing a career, is that because I'm very unhappy with where I am? And I have students like that as well, where you say like, okay, hey, listen, I want to be a coder in half a year and earn like 150K, and it's always hard to tell them, yeah, so the, sure, it's a little bit like, hey, I want to go on The Voice and become, you know, the next superstar. Like, it's not that that doesn't happen,
Right.
um, but that's normally not how it goes,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, your story is about like the shortest process of from starting out, to you know, being a decent coder, that I know. And you know me well enough that, of course, that is not a pure endorsement of your skills, but
Right. Yeah.
but a considering as, right. It's if you think about like that, normally you have like a time frame of 4 or 5 years, before you even are able to do like even a minor junior position, then that's quite impressive, you know, that the time frame.
Right.
And that's basically what I'm kind of aiming at here. And I don't know how accurate these metrics are, but so even though I do have a text message from Anita, which you know as well,
Yeah.
from what I see on the metrics, we are still alone. Assuming that you are the one watcher here
On Twitch.
on Twitch.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So people have to basically catch up then. Hmm. I'm just going to see if somebody's going to show up or not.
Okay.
Right. which you never know because it's I don't know what. So the guy I was talking to on the server I was telling you about, he's from GMT plus one, which is Europe,
Okay.
which right now has a time of 20 minutes to 7. No, to 2 in the morning. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
right. So basically noon for a coder.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
That's prime time right there.
It is. It is
Uh,
prime time right there. Very true. So anyway, let me go back to this and see what I have to approve here. See levels and perks. No, don't spam me here with stuff. Okay. Yep. Okay. Oh, and Facebook. Okay, whatever. We can live with that. That's weird. Um, okay. Facebook, huh?
yeah.
That's a my general love of Facebook, don't you?
Oh, yes.
I have actually literally avoided it for I think 6 years straight.
Mm. I actually ran into some interesting interactions with Facebook because I figured like I want to know more about how businesses are interacting in a modern sense, like in every step.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to build a business account on Facebook, but they require that you have a personal account on there first before
Mm-hmm.
you even build a business account.
Like
And
is it still like pages or is there like a different kind of account?
it's more like pages still.
Okay.
Um, the interesting portion though is that uh, I I'm already looking at how I interact with people in a
Mm-hmm.
different light now. Now that I have this greater kind of public face as a business, to
Mm-hmm.
where people can visit it and everything. And before, I'm not saying I do anything like terrible that I don't want anybody to see. I'm pretty squeaky clean as far as like other companies can see, but it's still one of those things like, hey, I want to like upvote this dirty joke or dark humor or something like that. But then like I have to reconsider and just be like, well, should I do that because people can see that I'm attached to this business? The business is me. How do I still have a personality while still kind of sort of remaining like socially neutral about a bunch of things? It's kind of interesting and just from like a sociological point of view, just how that pressure is.
Right. Yeah, but I mean that's I guess that's one of the problems, right? Is that everybody has kind of a social media history as well.
Hmm.
So you would probably expect that people are actually I had this discussion with Anita the other day because so her channel is a little bit like a Bob Ross setting, right? Where you basically you hear music that according to her constantly gets flagged by YouTube for copyright infringement.
Fair. Yeah, yeah.
So um, and then you see her painting, or I mean I'm pretty sure you cannot call that painting. Like she used Adobe Illustrator, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the verb of doing that would entail.
Um, Usually people refer to it as digital illustration.
Yeah, yeah. Let's call it that. And so it has something like this a little bit meditative. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that kind of breaks, of course, with when she starts, getting political and like she's pretty active there. I mean, she used to be in city core or city, no, what city? Ah, God, I don't know what those lower government positions are called, but an elected official.
Yes.
Yes, and where it can only be like so and so extreme, of course. But on the other hand, like, well, things need to be said.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes with all of this political. So sure, as a company, you need to be somewhat neutral,
Right.
but as an individual, like sometimes you just need to take a stance.
exactly, and it's discovering where that line is, because I've never had to do that before. Like my opinions have always been my own, and they're always public facing, and there's nothing I'm never ever really like embarrassed about.
Hmm.
Um, but like just discovering that new side of things, it's a weird position to be in, but a fascinating one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I believe it. And what actually what wonders me about that is so when I look at your because I mean I do follow you on Twitter and so on, and I noticed that okay you like a little bit of art and you know you repost this and that and so on. But I mean now you're probably switching over to a little bit of the concept of how marketing works with those
Right.
platforms. And so what's that like if I mean you basically said on Facebook, okay, so all of a sudden you're this entity, right? You're
Right.
not a person anymore. You're this entity, and basically you build up this or in the process of building that up, and of course at the same time you're one man show.
Right.
So how much time if you think about like okay so any kind of business basically has some kind of sales and marketing aspect to it,
Right.
right? And of course your background is like okay so well you learned the technical part, right? Okay, how to build an application
Right.
and how to talk to customers and how to you know get the ideas put into code. And now all of a sudden you're faced with a completely new topic that is kind of like okay, but now you also have to acquire customers. Now you also have to well you know like have administration like writing bills and you know all that kind of crap, and you don't really learn that on Udemy, I suppose.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which by the way Udemy wasn't the one that how did you start? Maybe you want to talk a
Uh,
little bit.
well, so like it was kind of funny. I started with W3 schools, like the number one thing that you run into when you Google anything.
Still have the best SEO, don't they?
Oh my God, they're the best.
Yeah.
Um, so like I ran into them, and then like I forgot what the problem was, but I found that they had some outdated, deprecated stuff, mainly dealing with like styling, if I remember correctly. But um, so I moved from there. I'm like, well, I want something a little bit more structured, a little bit more, you know, maintained, so I don't run into so many deprecated things. And so I went to Team Treehouse,
Okay.
and
That
that's like Udemy, but it has more of a structure. Like you get to choose the path that you want to go through, and so like I took the front end structure first, where there, you know, I focus mostly on just the main three languages or technologies:
oh,
HTML,
okay.
JavaScript. Yeah.
HTML, JavaScript. Okay, yeah, yeah. So and then probably Node as well as the backend.
They at the time they didn't have anything for the back end for the front end, but now they do.
Okay, so you started completely as with a front end approach then.
Hmm. Yeah, I really started diving into backend when I noticed that there was a lot more job applications for front end people to know more of the back end, and then I figured, well, let me, you know, knock down two birds with one stone, and also learn uh, WordPress, and so that got me into PHP, and then that's when I joined Eagle at
Hmm.
the same like around the same time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, really? You had okay. So
Yeah.
so you started with WordPress, and how far did you get there?
I didn't get very far. Honestly, they were the when I was learning more about it, it was more so looking at it from a templating point of view. They were like, okay, so this is how you make the header, and then you're going to import your header, your footers, and then this is just a basic function to get the current year, so that way you don't have to go and change that every New Year's Day. uh, you know, so that kind of stuff. And then I started to kind of venture off on my own and try and find like, okay, how do I actually mess with the back end? Like this is nice and everything, but it's it's still too like a layer too high for me. I needed to dig down a little deeper. Um, And by that time, that's when Eagle picked me up, and that's when you guys really started to really kind of get me more into the back end and start teaching me more stuff.
It's actually interesting that you say that. I had a completely different impression.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the first time I hear this. I thought that you had, when we started to work on PHP together,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that you had a Node background.
Mm, okay.
But because you had these kind of things that were kind of like interesting to see, where you were in the transition of writing relatively classic JavaScript, and then having more and more of those ECMA syntactic sugar all of a sudden.
Yeah, that was mostly because like I was starting to absorb from other, like I started to stray more from Team Treehouse because I started to realize that the problem with like those courses, they're fantastic for just getting you started, for just getting you introduced to things and the beginners aspect, but then like after a while you start to kind of crave more of the deeper questions that they can't that their classrooms aren't really meant for.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I started looking at other people online, and then they started using more ECMAScript, which is probably why you saw like a bunch of like me using the fat arrow functions and all that. um yeah, so that's really where I picked up that stuff. But yeah, I didn't actually touch Node um until it started to become a major thing for the one project we were working on in Eagle.
Okay. But okay, but the I remember that you picked a stack once for a project was it Mevin or something like that,
Yes.
nobody in the whole department was familiar with.
Right. And that was kind of like a idea that I had in vain of just saying like, not only do I want to learn, but I wanted to kind of learn um by comparison, to take what I had learned at Eagle and then say like, okay, so what is the actual like techniques and other things that are from the back end that I learned from PHP, and kind of use JavaScript or Node as like a filter for that, and just kind of like, I don't know, I had the idea that it would somehow give me like perfectly filtered, this is what backend skill set is like. So like I kind of wanted to experiment with it, and it was new and fascinating, and everyone started to use it more. Um, but then I just kind of learned that, what, PHP is really awesome and shouldn't be taken advantage of, because like
Taking advantage
it.
of.
I mean, because like a lot of people look at PHP and there's so much hate for it. Like I uh, even in forums meant to support PHP, there's a bunch of people who are just like, you should just do this part in Node, and I'm like, wait, why? Why? Um, that's more so in Stack Overflow. You'll find people who are just like, oh, cool, this is what you do. Uh, Download Node, use Node. Stop using PHP for this one specific thing, because a lot of people use it as like a templating thing.
Yes, that's still I see that a lot, right?
Yeah.
I actually have this project going on right now, or micro series that's called the Clean Code,
Yeah.
where I'm basically generating somewhat like the I don't even know how to call that, the small child of Neon 3. So I'm developing a very very primitive framework, right? That would simply follow certain principles, but would be, I mean, of course, can't account. I mean, like it's very basic. It's just basically like, okay,
Right.
how would you set up a MVC structure if you started from scratch?
Right.
And because unfortunately, like to this day, whenever I look at tutorials and so on, and ask, okay, how does PHP look like, and I either find like some kind of WordPress plugins that look absolutely horrible. Unfortunately, to this day,
Yeah.
or like some kind of code that is as spaghetti as you can possibly imagine, where the view and the controller and even the models, like everything is just like in between, and there you go, and all of a sudden there's an SQL statement between your iteration of your table, and it's like
Yeah.
like it's insane. And of course, to be fair, you actually really can't do that in Node,
No.
right? And that's a
Yeah.
little bit, it's a little bit, of course, like okay, let's save the beginners, right? Because you can't do that in your handlebar template,
No.
right? You really
No, you can't.
can't. And so that's sometimes where I think, like, well, maybe that's why those kind of advice is given, right? Because there's also not really you cannot really be as bad um, in those kind of systems when it comes to maintainability and clean code as you can in PHP.
Yeah. I can kind of see that where it's like, hey, okay, no, we need you to focus on the one thing, and so we're going to have you work in a language that is only capable of really not mixing and matching, but just like, here, stay in your lane,
Right.
because we can't trust you to do otherwise.
Right. Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. 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 Um, I'm probably going to just simply write something in here to remind people that we're chilling here.
Okay.
Uh, let's broadcast to the world. I have, by the way, my keyboard is right next to my microphone.
So I hear.
Uh, check or I don't know if how far is the delay? Do you see weekday hangouts coming in?
Yeah, I
Uh,
see them.
uh, what up, cluckety cluckety? Yes. So that's, by the way, if you weekday hangout, if you join the Discord, no
Yep.
names, no names, right? And then go into, you see that little Discord thing on the somewhere on the stream, right? Do I display that? Yes, and it's bearable to read and input somewhere. That's cool. And then go
Mhm.
to the interview channel. You can actually talk to us and then see how that works. Uh, or join our Discord. Bam. I'm sending this out to the world. So let's see. No names. Okay? No names, Bobby. I want you to respect that.
Yep.
No names. The internet is a place of anonymity unless you want to actually market yourself
Yes.
with names. Even though I like that, like why not stay anonymous?
Right, especially like when you start finding out more of like how the world is connected. Like I don't know why I fell down this YouTube rabbit hole of looking at like old hacker stories and like things that happen that the news doesn't really cover. And uh like listening to some of these things, I'm just like, oh, cool. So if I could just get that cabin in the woods now, cut off everything, like my connection to the electronic world, that'd be great. Um, I couldn't do it though. I'd talk a big scary game, but I would quickly run back to society.
I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of miss that. Like I used to do stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I kind of enjoy like the complete being in the cabin in the woods for a while. I sometimes do live unplugged, and I mean I do crazy shit like survival in the woods and so on, and
Hmm.
haven't really done that ever since I moved to the States because bears.
Yeah. I I haven't gone camping in the longest time, like since I was a Boy Scout. Um, but my mom is like still like deep enough in the country where like I can visit her and then like not hear anything but like animals, crickets, and all that. There's not even enough light at night because like usually like here in my apartment, I still get street lights and business lights and all that, and I don't get that downstate. So it's the closest thing I can get to unplugging for a little bit.
To unplugging for a little bit. Hey,
Yeah.
so week weekday hangout. Kind of wow. Okay, how does this even work? That is cool. Um, we can't hear you for some reason. But you have this. If you, Bobby, if you go to the Discord interview channel, do you see that there's? Let me see how that works. Share your screen. Turn on camera. How do I? There seems to be a camera on here that I'm trying to kind of integrate and see what's going on here.
Huh.
See what's going on here. That's the. How do I get this over here? Let me click on that. Oh, it says join stream. Huh. Let's see. Let's see. I might kind of. Okay. Wow. Now that is awesome. Let me see. Do we hear each other? Okay. Weekday Hangouts is a mute. Bobby, do you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Let me check something out here. Okay, I don't think my computer can do that. Maybe. So what are we seeing here? Hold on. Holy crap. I cannot do this as I intended to do. Okay, so not what I wanted to do. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
No, let's bounce that back in. And now it's worse. Now it's on full screen. Technology, why would we be able to do it?
We're only coders.
We're only coders. With all that kind of stuff here going on. Okay. Let's check this out. Okay. So what are we watching here? Okay. Weekday Hangouts, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we're kind of watching you here. And can't hear you, of course. Let me open up the chat. Where did that go? Yeah, I need to. My computer doesn't actually manage that. I think my RAMs are at the maximum of anything that's possible. And my chat crashed. Okay. So let me disconnect from this. Why is this streaming? Why is this streaming? Okay. Come on. You can do it. You still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm super concerned. Every click takes a minute now. And I really have to somehow kick Weekday Hangout out in order to make that work for me. Unfortunately, that's what I will have to do. Sorry about that. Just move this over here. Bum. Okay. You still here?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Weekday Hangouts, I'm sorry, but you kind of need to stop streaming your camera here. I don't even know how to do that. This is actually a voice channel. Seriously don't know how that works. Keep talking, Bobby.
Oh, hey.
Okay.
Hello, Weekday Hangout.
Yeah, hello. So anyway, yes. Let's maybe get back on topic a little bit. While I'm lost with technology. So okay. So you then started to work on the on those courses, and so while you already had your first position, then is that basically how it can?
So I had finished the main track that they had me on, and so basically I was kind of like done learning that the front end developer track,
Hmm.
but then I had moved over to um, their WordPress, which was like a completely different, because WordPress developers are almost their own breed right now. Like they're just so prevalent. So they had a separate track for them, and I started going through that with Eagle, and then I was just learning. I was just learning so much on the job that I just kind of like I was reading more articles and than anything else, and I kind of fell away from Team Treehouse. Um, just because like I wasn't learning as much from there than I was when I was on the job.
That's okay. That's a pretty interesting thing, though. So you're saying that on the job you learned more than basically from institutionalized learning facilities.
Yeah, I mean, just because like I've always been the kind of person to like learn by doing and like learn by messing up a lot,
Hmm.
and so like work kind of provided a safe avenue for me to like because there were like I could mess up at work, but
Hmm.
there was never really a point where I could mess up so desperately where something could not be recovered or something couldn't be fixed or there was always a nice sort of safety net. So it was just kind of nice to work in that environment, and so I felt it was more conducive to the way I naturally learned rather than like the videos that were on Team Treehouse at the time. It was a good start. It just to carry me the rest of the way, nothing beats practical experience.
Right, but would you say that's maybe because you worked on on actual projects rather than on some kind of like, hey, coding challenges they sometimes have?
Yeah, honestly, like I felt like uh that was very beneficial because like I got to learn real world problems and solve them realistically rather than the okay so the to-do list that everyone learns by themselves. They always they're like the technology stack can change, but like the steps don't really change. But here it's different. Like when you're actually working on real world problems, there isn't really a step one, step two kind of thing that a to-do list would have. So yeah, like having that real world problems and a client that I kind of had to respond back to made things more real. And honestly, I kind of thrive under that pressure.
Yeah, you call it pressure. That's interesting. But I noticed that also with a lot of people that are learning or actually even done learning and have their degree of whatever kind, right? Either it's like a CS degree or coming from some kind of boot camps or whatever. That okay. So normally you have an assignment that kind of like lays out very precisely. Okay, do this, do that, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And in the real world, it's kind of like, well, that's not what you present it with. You present it with a problem,
Right.
right? And then okay, so what's your advice on solving that problem, right? It's basically what you do as your main service. And then the coding would more or less just be the implementation of that solution.
True. Yeah.
And I think that's something that most people that's why like you see a lot of questions like, okay, so I can code, what do I do next, right?
Yeah, and honestly, the only thing I can really suggest for people like that is just start doing things. Like, just like while you're on the internet, just get, you know, familiar enough with the shape of the internet and just like say, okay, well, I've always loved how uh, when I'm looking at a website and I scroll down, all of a sudden a navigation bar pops up. How did they do that? How would I do that? Like just take real world examples and just kind of like challenge yourself. or even just bring up the inspection bar, like the inspection tools, and just start breaking it down. Like
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
beats it.
Actually, and I cannot emphasize that enough, right? It's you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how many people like just don't use the dev tools.
Oh yeah.
And and with me, I mean, if I'm developing something that's never closed,
Yeah.
with my students, I often have to say like, well, like you want to look at your network, you want to.
Right.
It's like, well, okay, you make this button that's supposed to, send some kind of AJAX request to the back end, and you don't know why it's not working. Well, the first thing you probably want to see is like, well, what's happening when they click that button,
Yeah.
right?
Like it's funny because like I have another friend who's a developer, and she has years of experience, and her husband is just kind of like learning the bars, and he saw my ultra wide computer, and he's like, oh, you must be able to like have like your text editor and your and like documentation open at the same time. Then I'm like, yeah, but my favorite view is just having just the browser, and then just like extending out all of those like inspection tools, like all the dev tools that are just in there. Like I'll have it looks weird to other people, but I love having that big view of having all those tools available. I'll have the console and the network tab and everything open at once because it's so helpful.
Um, it is right. It is.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the like the console in your IDE.
Yeah.
Right, sorry, the terminal, right, is something that okay, you kind of want to have that in sight somehow.
Yeah.
I also don't know why people like constantly close that, and say like, well, okay, normally something is running, right?
Right.
Something is running, and I never also understand like okay, so I don't have things installed as services. How most people have like, okay, so I'm working with Mongo, so that's always running. Like, no,
Right.
I actually want to run this manually. I mean, not only because I work with a lot of technologies, and if everything were to run all the time, then eventually I'd have a problem with my resources, right?
Yeah.
but also because like, no, I actually want to have a terminal running, because if that thing throws any kind of errors or crashes or whatever, I want to see that. I want to have a log of that I don't have to dig up somewhere, but actually like see that live, because I probably want to address it live, right?
Right. Yeah. Like there's a lot of problems where like in the beginning when I was learning how to code, like I would remember trying to run something and I'm like, okay, well, like maybe like trying to manipulate something in the DOM. And like I'm not understanding why my code's not working. And so many times I had to just keep reminding myself, like, oh, my console's not open. I mean, this was before like I had like a terminal or like was running anything in just the pure IDE, which now I could just stay there for forever. Like as far as like unless I'm messing with anything visual in like the browser itself, like you could just spend all your time there now, especially with Linux. You know, so like there was so much time that like I had to just open up the console and just be like, oh, okay, there's the live error. I didn't bother reading it because I didn't have it open.
I
Like
thought
it's helpful.
I thought you jumped back to developing on Windows.
I had to, but I honestly, I'm kind of torn because I I love developing on Linux. I actually think it's better to develop on Linux than it is to develop on Windows. It was just really a problem of um, all of the programs for like administrative tasks were just so much more accessible and easier, and I didn't want to have to like onboard onto like the free version of like Word and Photoshop. I have like decades of experience with Photoshop, so like I couldn't run Photoshop properly and some of the other things I was just used to. But like as far as like the pure dev experience, you really can't beat Linux. Like it's just better. But yeah, I had to for all the other external programs, like the administrative tasks that I have to run. Like I had to go back to you know to Windows at that point.
Okay, this might be an interesting a side note here, maybe if you want to elaborate on that. So, so normally one would think that, well, like a developer wouldn't really require to work with Photoshop or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it, so is that not reality for a web shop?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, you can honestly, there's enough online tools where you could just like download an SVG or like just download things. But like my background, where I came from, like uh, I learned how to get into development through gaming, through learning game development, and anytime that I was planning anything, I would always start with Photoshop, even if it was just like crude drawings or like just getting my ideas out there. It kind of acted like my first marker board before, like, we actually had like personal marker boards next to our desks and stuff.
Oh, really?
So like yeah, so like and it's especially helpful too because like I now have a way of communicating to other artists that I may work with, to be able to say like, okay, so if you could have your folder structure this way, so I can go and
Oh,
read
yes,
through
yes.
all the layers properly,
Oh
because
God,
like,
thank you.
yeah,
And I actually hope that weekday hangouts is still online,
yeah,
because so um, the on that channel, what you basically see is that it's super structured when you know how folders work and how layers work and so on. And there's nothing worse than getting a file over from a graphic designer that you're just incapable of working with when you have to translate it to web.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially like if they don't have, they underestimate what assets you need all the time. Like it always happens like that with like, well, not all developer, not all graphic designers, but like I used to deal with this one person who refused to send me anything that had layers in it. He would collapse all the layers and just send me the raw, just a one image file. I'm like, this is practically useless
There you
because
go.
I can't like focus anything. I can't, because I'll go in and I'll crop out something if I don't have it, or like I'll, like, because I also like testing things for people who have um, color blindness, or who have a problem breaking down contrast between things. Like my older brother, he can barely tell the difference between navy and black. Like they're basically the same color to him. And so uh like sometimes I'll just bring it down to black and white and just say, okay, so like these two colors are too similar in tone for me to really use them on the web.
Yeah.
I need them to be a little bit more different.
And honestly, I'm colorblind myself, so I mean that's sometimes that where I say like I don't. I mean, accessibility is in general something where you say like I mean a lot of work could be done there,
Yeah.
and but so when you now work with customers of your own, so is that still how you would go about it, to say like, okay, I'm going to open up my Photoshop, create some mock-ups or wireframes or however you call them?
Well, with like, so on a visual portion, I'll always start off with like breaking things down with Photoshop. When it comes to just pure logic now, especially like working with other customers, like you're talking to them live, and so like sometimes it'll just be too slow to bring up Photoshop like immediately, and Photoshop is my chance to kind of just be like raw with my thoughts. So sometimes, like, I right now I have it like right here, just a pad of paper and a pen. Nothing has beaten that. I've tried multiple like note taking apps and even like a tablet and stuff, like, but nothing really beats being able to like write down logical ideas here. But then like in Photoshop, I'll break down like the visual aspects, and I write down. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, but a storyboard. Like I'll write down like if like I'm planning on having an animation, or like something where the visuals will change. I'll do the storyboard there and break down like, okay, so this is the normal state, and then when you scroll, this is stage one, stage two, stage three of that animation. So that way I know for a fact how to break it down and what I would need in order to translate that code. So it's like it's an old animation, and well, movies use it too, but
Isn't it?
mostly, Yeah.
It's an interesting technique, but it probably helps to break down the. So do you work with like XD as well and stuff like that? Because wouldn't
With what?
Adobe XD X
Um,
XD they basically have a little bit of that kind of functionality from a
I
different
find I
perspective, but you know what I mean.
yeah, I find the XD like it's helpful if somebody else is working with me and they want to give me like a good package to kind of like break down like, okay, so this is how I think the website should be, and I actually like a lot of their features. But when it comes to like my own work, Photoshop, just nothing really beats that. Like I just go and I break down everything. I just draw it all out and just get all those ideas out, play with colors live, and then that's when I can go and just say, okay, now I'm confident in how the actual look and feel will be. It's just, yeah, because like the once you start working with a tool like XD, or like, and I know that there's a couple of other tools like that. I think like Figma is like another one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But like once you start working in those tools, like you start losing um the ability to just have that raw imagination with something. With like Photoshop though, I could just work with one brush and just draw. I have my own Wacom tablet and I just draw everything out. And instead of having to drag and drop and make, because once I start doing that, I start thinking, okay, well, I should really think about the dimensions of this and that. But so it's not really good for just getting the ideas out. you know. So if anything, like Photoshop is for the concept, while Adobe XD is more so like the actual uh, the actual breakdown of the planning of it. So it's more like an official document to me, at least.
Okay, it's more like an official document. That's an interesting point of view. Okay, but so what you basically say overall is that yes. So even as a pure web developer, you need familiarity with those kind of tools and basically need to be. I mean, I don't want to say half a graphic designer, but at least overtake things that people have designed and translate them into code.
Yeah, yeah. Like you want to be able to, like, even if you're not familiar enough with art, where you're not drawing something, or you're like, I mean, because I've spoken with people who can only draw stick figures. The most important thing is that you're familiar enough with a tool to express an idea, even if the way that you express that idea is through a bullet pointed list. Like whatever that is for you. Define that, get comfortable with that, and use it. But if you could get familiar with art in any way, shape, or form, you can communicate so much better with it. And then, like, also, just kind of take the small tasks off their hand. Like, I'm not going to create a new ticket or call someone and say, hey, I need you to export something. I'd much rather just export it myself and just like kind of mention it, like, oh, hey, in the future, don't forget to export this in this format. Like, I know how to export in PNG or SVG or like whatever I need for that particular case. So like having that kind of skill set without having the artistic skill of just being able to, like, draw like a Rembrandt. Like, you don't need that, but at least like know how to communicate to an artist. It's
Yeah,
vital.
I think that makes sense. But like you do realize that for the people that are starting out, I mean, what they do is they use their actually to 90% bootstrap. And basically, I don't think that they're aware that there's a lot of custom design in when it comes to actual web projects. Because the whole topic of corporate identity and like, okay, maybe even some kind of custom fonts and all of that is not really something that you're introduced with as a learner, right? Because you kind of like you have your React portfolio up there that's using I don't know, maybe Material UI,
Right.
and that's as far as it goes. So it's also one of those things that again, like you're not even introduced to unless you actually start working and then all of a sudden sit at a job or whatever. And get that over. Let me actually see. Okay, I get. So weekday hangout apparently really wants to interact with us, but the so because now I'm getting a call that I will probably can't really. I don't understand why. Can you? Because I think simply the microphone isn't working. Because whenever we're in this, let me see. Okay, so this should work, right? I mean, so maybe explain that a little bit. So you just joined the interview channel and then turned on your microphone and you're fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, like so if you go to like the bottom left hand corner where you see like your name and then like the hashtag and number, there's the user settings. So I just go in there and then go to voice and video, and I just switched it to the proper microphone and the the headset that I have for the output, and then I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, because I can't take a different call here. The idea is, of course, that people call in right into this very channel.
Hmm.
But of course, like I've never tried this out before.
Yeah.
I've tried this out before. So let's see. Maybe we got Hangouts can somehow. Oh, ignore that. Wait, what? Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me see what we can do here. Where is this? I want to talk about this. I'm screaming in my head right now. Okay, we definitely need to get weekday hangouts in here somehow. Let's see how that works. At worst case scenario, how about like the hangouts would also work, right? But I would then
Yeah,
speak
I
over
wouldn't
it.
mind that. I'm also hearing. It looks like, yeah, she keeps on joining in the interview channel.
Yeah, right? It's like, why doesn't this work? Okay, so here and then, hey, can you say something? Is there, why doesn't this work? I think that's a microphone setting, right? Must be.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. In worst case scenario, I did something terribly wrong. I need to. No, I didn't. Did I have to approve you? No, this just worked out of the box, right?
Yeah, it should just work out of the box.
Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah.
So I see no muting sign anymore, but I can't hear anything. Hello, hello, hello. Nope.
No, I'm not getting anything on my end.
No, it must be. No, me neither. It must be some kind of microphone setting. Weekday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Weekday hangouts. Check your user settings. You might have to jump back in and change your input device.
Yeah, it must be something wrong with that.
Can you see
right?
me?
Yeah, I don't know what that. I mean, we see that you joined the channel.
Right.
Looks like I have to download Discord again. Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, it could be that's from. It's giving me an error. Okay. It could be that's if you join by phone that's different. Is that possible?
Yeah, it might be a little bit different.
Because that would explain the video connection that I kind of had to block.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like like when you're going on Periscope. What? Yes. What? Okay.
Yes, but I don't want to take any more time. It might be a little hard to, but if you want, you can go ahead and see if you can write down your question or comment.
I have my own channel to go to. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's that, I guess. Was just going to talk art. Yeah, that would have been interesting, of course. That perspective, right? from while we're bitching here about designers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would have been nice, but
yeah,
we'll have to invade her channel.
yeah, yeah. That's yeah. We're gonna try the same. Actually, I
Yeah.
mean that's actually the irony is that exactly what we're trying out here, technology wise, is something that Weekday Hangout was interested in how that works, and now it doesn't work. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I know that you have some plans for tonight. So maybe if on a very high level, if I were to ask you, hey, I am learning how to code at the moment. I'm doing web dev. I'm on my path on pursuing a career. What would you tell somebody like just on a high level or as detailed as you want to get about it, like what do you have to do in order to make that kind of path happen?
Uh, the one thing I would say, and this is just coming from someone who, because like I have a learning disability, so the one thing I had to learn early on was to take charge of my own learning. So don't just be a witness to your learning where like they tell you to do something, they tell you to watch a video and you just do it. um See, like, analyze yourself, look at the things that you're doing, look at the things that you struggle with, and then just go out of your way to learn those things harder. Because like the things that are going to trip you up is not what framework it's not going to be any of the extraneous, like what video did you watch or didn't watch. It's the basics, the logic behind things. I've screwed up more code because of my logic and because like of not knowing like the basics, like arrays or anything like that. um so just take charge of your learning, find like, and ask people, like, you know like, just ask them the question that's awkward and just say, hey, what am I bad at, or what am I good at? Just like, it's an awkward conversation to sometimes have, but like, it's just good to just know what's happening and then just work on it, and just come back the next time and, view everything that you do in the lens of, I'm getting better. I'm I'm a student and I'm going to remain being a student because this is a field that's constantly changing. So just get used to learning and get used to taking charge of your learning. Because as soon as you say, "Oh, I'm good enough, I've learned enough as a dev," that's when you stop being a dev, because you can no longer learn the things because you feel like you've learned enough.
Right, right. That's yeah. Actually, that's pretty good advice for the more experienced devs as well, because it's you never done learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. But what I meant was more like, okay, so the like the job market, I mean, especially right now, of course, with all the virus going on and so on. So I have a lot
Right.
of people in Wyzen, for example, that are kind of like, okay, they graduate now, if and some of them are lucky and they sit somewhere, like in San Francisco.
Hmm.
but but some people
That
are
is
kind of like, okay, so yeah, I'm done now. I live in Idaho. Where do I go from here?
right.
And of course, our region is very challenging in that respect as well. As a matter of fact, even before the crisis, we were dubbed dead last when it comes to job opportunity.
Yep.
Um,
And
with that exact, I'm not even paraphrasing that. With that exact word, dead last, is how it was published.
yep.
And that's naturally something that is a challenge, right? For any kind of job market, of course. So
Right.
what would you say is the most important thing to basically get into the industry if you have no prior experience, because I mean that's of course something that like you will find in any kind of Indeed listing or Monster or whatever, like, yeah, so please have your PhD and 5 years of experience,
Yeah.
right?
And then you can be an intern or a
Right.
reverse intern.
Exactly,
Yeah.
reverse intern, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah. I think the thing to consider the most is like, what are you willing to work on? Because like a lot of people, they view the stuff on Indeed or LinkedIn. I know myself, I hit that rock of like requiring so many years of experience just for a junior position. It's worth it just to say, okay, well, there are people online who need work to be done. They require a lot of help, or just sometimes they just need like a WordPress thing to be done. So it's worth it just to have the ability to say, okay, well, if I'm not getting a job, I'm gonna make my own job, and I'm gonna make that happen.
right.
you know and so once you have that attitude about something, then you'll get the experience. You'll Because like I only had like a little bit of experience working with a construction company making their website, and I would make the website completely different, but I at least went out there and I made something of it. So like, if you're just starting out, you're looking for your breakout opportunity, not everyone's going to hand that to you all the time. So just go out there and find the opportunities yourself. Talk with people, network with people, because you never know who needs, just like who says like, oh, I have a band and we just need a website just to help out from there. It's not going to bring in the big bucks. You're not going to have like a six-figure income, but like you're at least getting that experience so you can put yourself out there. And who knows, you might make a career and find out, what, I like freelancing more than I like working for an agency or anything like that.
Well, even if not, right? I mean, I when I
Right.
look at projects like that, I mean, I as somebody who basically made decisions on employment. So even if it's a project that was done for free, right? If you
Hmm.
say like, hey, you know what, my mom has a grocery store or whatever, and even if that's the case, I normally prefer that to kind of like, hey, this is the assignment that we had,
Yeah.
portfolio type of thing, because it's at least something real, something where you had to sit down, make up your mind. How does it, like creating your own concept, and it's an actual project, right? That actually made it to production, and not just something like, hey, you know what? You will find this on all my classmates with a different color shade.
Yeah. But it's different because they have the different color.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's and there was no guidance and no TA and no whatever, like you actually had to do this, and that's maybe something that why I prefer it when people like just make their own project. Also, it really doesn't matter how primitive it is, right? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
just show me something that relates to anything that is real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I absolutely agree on that. Absolutely agree on that. Okay. Well, Bobby, I thank you so much for your time.
Not a problem. I really enjoy doing this.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It was fun, even though I noticed that I need to drink way more when I'm talking all day long. Mm.
Yeah, I'm used to talking for long hours from call centers. So
That's right. Yes, that's right.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I'm afraid I'm used to that too lately, but let's see. That might change.
Yeah. Oh,
That might
good.
change. Well, thank you so much, and I'm probably going to make a small break because I have a meeting in 40 minutes. And no, in 20 minutes. Crap. And we'll yeah, you'll hear from me, I would say.
All right. Well,
Right.
you have a good one.
Thank you. Same to you, Bobby. Take
No
care.
problem. Bye, everyone.
Okay.